from a Catholic military ethos than Kilquhanity House School in Galloway. If it looks tranquil in the late afternoon sun, it was bitterly cold and dark when an angry and distressed Bob Cuddihy arrived with his sister Dee Dee.
I can remember exactly what he said to me when he came out of the car. I came here in a taxi one night after dark, and he'd been travelling from London, and he didn't know where he was going, into the train, into the town of Dumfries, and then Dumfries here in the dark, and he landed here, and he came out, and he said, "I'm Bob. Can I smoke here?" So I said to him, "Well, if I say you can't, I expect you will anyway."
John Aikenhead and his wife Morag had founded Kilquhanity as a radical alternative to conventional schools, and they considered the happiness of pupils to be paramount. They've now officially retired, but still attend council meetings where staff and pupils together resolve the problems of day-to-day school life.
He told me to shut up, or I'll beat you up. He started walking back over to get changed, and I said, "Well, I'm clicking my boots," and he turned around and threw a football boot at me, and I missed and hit the window. Richard?
We'll have to have a proposal as to what we should do about this window.
Dorothy?
Well, who's going to pay for the glass?
You?
Me? I'll have to. My fault, that's my...
The best definition of education I know is that education is the generation of happiness. That challenges you what to do with the days that lie for a kid. To present a situation, to present a background, a living situation where a youngster would be happy and be challenged so that you become happier.
Can you take an individual who has every reason to be miserable and through education make their life better?
Well, by that time when Bob came, I was just doing that. Just doing that.
There's a feeling of, walking around the school. I always feel it when I come back down, of a tremendous calmness here. John and Morag were and are so incredibly stable. They're consistent. There's a consistency to their nature. This school did not survive the many, many years, more than half a century that it has survived, and given so much joy and so much happiness to so many children without John and Morag. So they're inseparable. I think coming here, coming to Kilquhanity, for good or for evil, this was the place that saved my life.
What did it do for you? What was saving about it?
It was the place that provided me, finally, with stability. There were ups and downs, of course. I mean, there are, inevitably, there was still another custody case to be heard in the United States, which we didn't know about. But what ultimately was provided here was love and affection, respect, regard, freedom, in a Kilquhanity sense, which is doing what you like as long as you hurt nobody else. It's far, far more complicated than you might think. It's not license, it's not doing what you like. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to spend 3 years in, and it's not rose-tinted spectacles. It's not looking back with nostalgia. I love this place very, very much, and it affected me profoundly.
He says that this place saved him, saved his life.
Yes. Well, I suppose it's a dramatic way to put it, Edie, but I think it could almost be said to be true at that point in his life. At 16, I think he encountered for the first time somebody, and that was John, who was so stable, so steady, so dependable. And the place was that, the way it was run, the steadiness of that. And it was something he had never encountered, I imagine now, in his life before.
And I think on the whole, looking over the 50 years we had the school, or 54, that the ethic at work in the school, consciously or unconsciously promoted by me, it was the Christian ethic. I grew up, I remember very well, really believing the that you returned good for evil. I really did believe that you turned the other cheek. If you listen to what the council meeting, the lines of the council meeting, or the lines of advice or objection to any actions that were antisocial, it really amounts to love your neighbour and love your enemy.
At the end of my first year, I realized that there were some very significant changes that had taken place inside of me. And I don't think that they were just the ordinary traumas of adolescence. I found myself, for instance, for a period, shaking violently. I just would shake and shake and shake and shake and shake. Didn't know when it was going to happen, couldn't control it. And it was almost as if it was a sort of catharsis. It was just something coming out of me. Goodbye, it was going. And it did go.
With the much publicised family fortune long gone, it was with the ongoing help of the Aikenheads that Bob moved to Edinburgh to continue his education, where the then Home Secretary Merlin Rees approved his application to assume responsibility for his two brothers and younger sister, and to restore an element of cohesion in the family. He had by then developed a loyalty to Scotland and launched himself first into politics and then into journalism, founding a newspaper on the island of Arran.